Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum and welcome to another edition of Debunked here on INX Prime. My name is Sulaiman Rawat. So, now that, all the hype and the focus, and the analysis and the commentary and the concern and the apprehension around the anti-immigrant protest has settled somewhat, we've got to remind ourselves that we are just a couple of months away from a local government elections, a municipal election. I heard a comment the other day by an analyst that many of the major political parties seem to be consumed at the moment by their own internal issues, and that in terms of actual electioneering, they're somewhat behind schedule. By now, you would have expected their electoral campaign to be in full swing, and one gets the impression that perhaps that is not the case, at least with many, if not most of these major political parties. So we analyze what's happening within the political landscape, within the major political formations, and what are the prospects? Joining us, political analyst Professor Andre Duvanaga. A very good day to you, sir, and welcome.
Good day. Talking again.
Do you get that sense, Prof, that the ANC, the DA, the EFF, and the MK, to start off with, have a lot of internal issues at the moment that they're still kind of grappling with, and that has perhaps set them back a little bit in terms of where they would want to have been, and we would have expected them to be in as far as campaigning is concerned? We will drill down and talk about each party separately, but just your broad thoughts around that particular theory.
Yes, indeed, that is the case. I have no doubt that at the moment there are so many other issues dominating the political scene on so many levels that the election is only but one issue that is prominent. Now, you refer to a number of parties, but we are witnessing one of the biggest reconfigurations of the political spectrum, I would like to say, since 1994. And taking that into consideration, it is absolutely clear to me that there's a lot of parties with internal conflicts, with internal problems, and they are battling this at the moment, and we can discuss them individually.
Let's start with the DA, because they've been making the news for all the wrong reasons as a party, right, in recent days. Jordan Hill-Lewis asks the president to make changes to the cabinet. John Steenhuisen is demoted. It goes against the agreement that they had. Then John Steenhuisen gives that explosive interview to News 24, implicates Tony Leon, has a go at the party leader. Leon hits back. Even if what Tony Leon and his lobbying company does is not illegal, many say that it's taken the shine of the moral integrity that the DA tries to project, especially in comparison to the ANC. It's raised many questions. It's brought skeletons out of the cupboard, former DA members coming out and saying, well, this also happened and that also happened, Herman Mashaba and the like. Is it something that kind of happened at a time where they still got enough time to recover come, November? Or is this, some dangerous signals that all is not well within the DA and they could mess up a real opportunity of making inroads into especially the ANC's voter base and growing their support as a party?
That this is a very serious challenge the Democratic Alliance is facing, and it is probably the most difficult time for the new leadership that took over since about March, April this year. It is clear that there's a lot of internal stress and conflict and strife within the party at the moment, and it's also clear that John Steenhuisen is not accepting his demotion from a minister to a deputy minister in good faith. Rather, it seems like he is fighting the party establishment, and at the moment, to me, it seems as if there's no strong word coming from Gordon Hill-Lewis to direct the process. It will be interesting to see if the Democratic Party is going to be as transparent as they always are with the majority of things, because this is a very, very difficult issue. It stands in a time where there's a new leadership. it is about 4 or 5 months before one of the most critical elections. When I attended the leadership conference, it was said many times that they would like to achieve 30% support nationally on a local level. They talk about controlling metropoles, specifically Joburg, and so on. But I cannot see this other than a huge setback for the Democratic Alliance, and they will need to have a strong attempt to recover their position before the election take place.
What is required for them then to get over this? I mean, if you were to advise them, if Jordan Hill Lewis was to call you and say, Prof, what do I do under these circumstances? His supporters say he showed decisive leadership. He's gone beyond a gentleman's agreement and done what is in the interest of the party. John Steenhuisen say he warned him that trying to appease AfriForum and Solidariteit is not going to get the conservative Afrikaner voter who's loyal to the Freedom Front Plus to come and vote for you. And those who have already decided to leave you and vote for Freedom Front Plus are going to go anyway, and you're running a big political risk by moving, me from the agriculture portfolio just to appease them, because you're never going to appease them anyway. So the DA has got that issue. It's got the issue of losing some colored votes to the Patriotic Alliance. It's got the issue of trying to capture a significant percentage of what the ANC is likely to lose, and all the while still remain within the GNU. What advice would you give Lewis?
To start with, I think it is important to say that during the election of a new leadership, the leadership conference of the ANC, I had a short interplay with Helen Zille, and I asked her, how are the DA going to address the whole issue of identity politics? Because I am picking up that identity politics is creating a lot of momentum. Looking at the PA, looking at the MK party, you can in a way also mention the Freedom Front Plus, and maybe even the EFF that's working on a black identity, the other Zulu identity, Afrikaner identity, a so-called colored identity, and so on. Her words at that time was, there's no identity other than the blue identity. Now, my take at the moment is that blue identity has become a lot more fragile. And you ask me, what will my advice be to Gordon Hill Lewis? I would go into the open, and I will try to stabilize my core constituencies. And my core constituencies are the so-called minority groups, they are the so-called colored groups, they are the Indian groups, they are what we can refer to as the Afrikaner and English-speaking constituencies within South Africa, and I will follow up with strong policy statements. Then secondly, I will stabilize the party from within, I will discipline them and only get one mouthpiece and no internal talks, and deal with crises the way they are presenting themselves. But this is going to be a difficult and a challenging task.
Let's talk EFF then, right? They had their massive setbacks some time ago when Floyd Shivambu departed, and then Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. They seem to have less internal drama as compared to, say, the DA and the other bigger parties. But their leader has got issues, right? The court ruling against him is something we've discussed previously. Now he's heavily implicated at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. One would have thought that they would have used the last while to consolidate, to reconfigure internally, and to get themselves ready for this election. They lost some ground in the 2024 elections. They lose their deputy president. Now they go into an election season with all of these question marks, serious question marks about corruption and about integrity swirling around their leader. And it's a personality-led party.
There's no doubt that Julius Malema is a bit of a personality cult within the EFF, and he is basically, in a way, synonymous with the EFF. So what is going against Julius Malema, in a way, is going to influence the party as such. Now, you are absolutely right. They lost their top leadership about after the election of 2024, And at the moment, what is standing is Julius Malema and maybe one or two others, but the Floyd Shivambus have left the party, and this is basically weakening the party a lot. But then the second point is probably even more important, and that is that there's a number of investigations going against Julius Malema. He was found guilty with the misuse of a gun recently. He is appealing this. We know about the VBS Bank case that is still continuing. We know about the Mashlanga Commission and the findings of the Mashlanga Commission. And there's no doubt that Julius Malema is far from the leader he was a few years ago. And I cannot see it other than having a huge influence on the support base of the party. I don't think the EFF will automatically achieve a 10% support base, as I don't believe that the DA will automatically achieve a 25 to a 30% support. It's rather going to be 20 to 22 if they consolidate their positions.
If we then talk about the MK, right? We know they change top leaders, ever so often. There's like a record that they probably have set in their short history for the number of SGs they've had. They've also suspended John Hlophe for a while and then brought him back, and then they had one deputy president and then created a position for a second deputy president. The only constant in the party has been Jacob Zuma. Even his own daughter, who for a very long time was seen as the power behind the scenes, is now been expelled from the party, together with their former spokesperson. They also have been heavily implicated in these recent protests. It's been highly speculated that they were funding it, or they stand to be the beneficiaries of any chaos that could result from these protests. And then whilst the protest is taking place, the news breaks that Zuma is sitting in India paying a visit to the Guptas. What's your analysis of what's happening within the MK, and what are their likely prospects? So much of instability, yet the theory seems to be that they're increasing in popularity, and especially KZN.
Well, the MK is a very interesting phenomenon of what we can call patrimonial and new patrimonial leadership. That is where you have a leader that has the direct support of a certain clientele, and they are supporting each other. Now, Zuma's base is the Zulu group, which is the biggest ethnic group in South Africa, with support bases throughout the country, but that is not the only support of the MK party. Now, the strategy of the MK party is basically that of an anti-system party. They are working against the constitution, they are against Ramaphosa, they are against the government of national unity, and they are actively busy destabilizing the country at a large scale. And one of the initiatives, only one, is the xenophobic process, where you had seen a very dominant Zulu prominence at this point in time, and I believe it to continue up until the election. You're absolutely right about the instability of the party, but the important point here is, as long as the leader is stable, the party is stable. The moment the leader is unstable, and that is the problem, there are huge court cases going against Jacob Zuma that will be activated relatively soon, probably early next year somewhere. And this is a very dangerous scenario for him. So it's not a huge factor if they have 5 or 6 or 7 secretary generals in less than 2 years. What is important is that they consolidate their ethnic power base in a way, that they broaden it to other areas, that they identify issues at the local level. And now Zuma has went so far as to present himself internationally to the Guptas, to the extent that he is showing Ramaphosa, I am not worrying about your system, about your courts, your processes. I am going to fight you. And I can really pick up that as a result of this, and there are other groupings supporting this line. We are thinking about the Congress of the Left. In a way, the EFF is also part of that, but not fully in terms of the xenophobic thing. But the fact of the matter is, at the moment, South Africa is becoming more and more unstable, literally on a daily basis. And we know that these xenophobic protests are going to be now on a weekly basis. And that is a clear attempt. That is the blueprint for destabilizing a country in terms of the old revolutionary doctrine used by the ANC and other organizations in the period before 1994.
So we come then to the ANC. Perhaps they're not making headlines as a party currently as much as, say, for example, the DA and others, but they are largely predicted to further decline in terms of electoral support. We know that there's a transition of sorts because it's evident now that Ramaphosa is in the last legs of his presidency. They go into an elective conference towards the end of next year. Interestingly, recently, the Deputy President Paul Mashatile came out in support of the High Commission in India, who was highly criticized, even by government, for being present with Jacob Zuma when he visited the Gupta, saying that, well, any former president comes to your country, then you've got to offer that support. What do you make of where the ANC is as a party in terms of its readiness for the upcoming elections, its prospects, and whether they can keep it together until at least after the election before you start seeing the factional battles that is likely to precede the elective conference come next year?
Variables. The single most important variable is the variable of the ANC. We have seen the ANC lost huge support. 2024 elections, we have seen the support base dropping to 40%. Current surveys are indicating a support base of 30%. Some say a bit higher than 30%. Some analysts are showing us below 30%. It's also clear to me the SACP is going its own way. There are cracks within COSATU. And it's absolutely clear that the ANC is not going to be the factor they were in the past when it comes to local government elections. And I am predicting that the ANC is going to be losing a majority of local government structures and or be part of a coalition governing these new structures. As the leadership battle is continue, this is also destabilizing the party. You are absolutely right that Paul Mashatile has his eyes on the presidency. He had it for a number of years. And what is clear to me is that some of the forces within the ANC is also aligning with forces external from the ANC, referring to the EFF, the MK party, and others.
So what are going to be the big issues as the campaigning now would intensify? We know immigration is one. What would be some of the other issues that we need to look out for in the coming weeks and months?
I think we have two types of issues here. On the one side, the real hard issues. They are service delivery. They are things like housing, provision of water, electricity, sanitation, roads, infrastructure, that type of thing. The other one will be immigration and the xenophobic tendencies, which is appealing on social services and the inability of structures to deliver social services. But behind that front, you are going to see huge political mobilization, and you are going to see parties using this and misusing this to their advantage. At the moment, Treasury has staying about 69 municipalities. Now, it's not clear to me what the strategy is behind it. I'm not sure if this is only a financial measure. What if it is a way of keeping control of these provinces by invoking Article 139 of the Constitution, where provincial structures are controlling local structures? Then they can keep an ANC influence in some way or another on local structures. So there's a lot of dynamics playing itself out.
What are your predictions, Prof, as things stand? I mean, I know it's early days and there's many variables and there's a lot that can happen, but as things stand, going into this election, who would be the big losers and those who are more likely to gain?
I think the big loser is going to be the ANC. I'm expecting expecting the DA to probably overcome their crisis and stabilize maybe on a bit of a higher level. Then I'm expecting other smaller parties with an identity orientation to perform better. These are parties like, for example, the IFP, the MK Party, the Patriotic Alliance, and the Freedom Front, to mention a few identity parties. And then there will be a huge number of splinter parties that may get a seat or two here and there. Now, this may produce coalition governments that may be unstable at the end of the day. Now, my own assessment is that we are entering a period that is very much unstable, to the extent that the instability we are talking about is an instability that is not going to affect local government alone. It can affect national politics, and it can even have an international dimension. We are currently in a phase academics call punctuated equilibrium. But the biggest variable is the decline of the ANC. And I think we are close to seeing the ANC's dominance of local government coming to an end. What is going to replace it is probably 257 small scenarios that is unique in character, but will produce a majority of coalition governments with the same type of challenges. To be clear on this one, I am not sure that a democratic change at this point will immediately address the problems of local government. We need a complete overhaul of local government, and this is going to take time, at least medium to long-term strategies. I'm talking 5 years, 10 years, maybe up to 20 years. I believe we are facing some of the biggest challenges since 1994, and probably even bigger challenges than what we had before 1994.
Just to conclude then, Prof, we know that local government elections generally don't enjoy as high a turnout as the national and provincial elections. This time around, predictions seem to suggest that we may have an even lower turnout. People are disillusioned, they're fed up, they feel that irrespective of who they vote for, either all these parties don't follow through on their promises, or coalition politics kind of results in things becoming somewhat hamstrung. How do we overcome this as a country? I mean, beyond just what the IEC needs to do to ensure that people turn out and more people register to vote and people actually go out and vote on the day?
Yes, IEC had done a survey recently where they are looking for the readiness for elections in certain provinces. And they came out with a survey indicating huge distrust of ordinary citizens in the political system and also in democratic practices. It was at an all-time low in KZN, below 10%. So the fact of the matter is people do not trust democratic practices. We are in a very critical phase of the consolidation of democracy. But just understand me here, I'm not against the principle of democracy. I'm only saying that surveys are indicating that people do not believe in democracy because they believe democracy is not delivering according to promises. Now, the fact of the matter here is that we are going into a very, very difficult election. And you are right that the turnout is low when it comes to local government, and especially in environments where there's violence. What is interesting is that your smaller parties normally deliver a higher outcome in comparison to your bigger parties. I'm expecting, if there's a low outcome, that the ANC will be penalized most. We have seen the Democratic Alliance in the past having the ability to deliver, so they are not going to be influenced to the same extent. But the parties that may benefit a lot is the identity parties, smaller parties that are mobilizing segments with a strong identity.
Prof, as always, a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
To our viewers, until next week, remember, we all have a responsibility to play our part Whether you believe in a system fully or not, or you have trust in one party or none, non-participation is not going to make it any better. Strategic participation will make at least a bit of a difference. Someone said to me recently, but the country is, broken. So I said, well, as a start, let's try and make it a little less broken before we even think about fixing it. We can never give up. We can never be defeatist. We should never be passive. Until next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.